Elvis Presley stepped up to the microphone, the arena buzzing with thousands of fans on July 2, 1976, Houston Astrodome. What he said next was never rehearsed. The crowd gasped as he revealed a secret about Lisa Marie. Something so personal that her own reaction, captured live, left the entire arena frozen in shock. Watch closely. Some confessions aren't meant for the spotlight, but they still change everything. July 2, 1976, Houston Astrodome. More than 20,000 fans had filled the arena, a sea of excitement and anticipation electrifying the air. The crowd buzzed, scarves waved, cameras flashed, and the scent of popcorn mixed with the faint hum of pre-show chatter. Fans knew they were about to witness Elvis Presley perform, yet none sensed the unusual tension backstage, a quiet weight hovering over the star. Behind the curtain, Elvis adjusted the collar of his rhinestone-studded white jumpsuit, sweat gleaming under the warm dressing room lights. His eyes, usually steady and confident, flickered with a thought no one else could see. He inhaled deeply, trying to focus on the upcoming performance, but his gaze kept drifting toward the wings, where shadows seemed to hold memories he couldn't ignore. The band tuned their instruments, checking chords and rehearsing cues. Stagehands moved quickly, making last-minute adjustments. The air smelled of polished wood and electrical current from amplifiers. Every sound seemed magnified, every step echoed. Despite the noise, Elvis remained oddly still, a performer preparing to step into the spotlight while carrying something heavier than any set list. What is it like to stand in front of thousands, expected to entertain, when your heart is preoccupied by a secret? How does one balance the expectations of fans with the weight of personal truth? The arena lights dimmed slightly, casting gold across the stage, amplifying the shimmer of his jumpsuit. The audience's roar surged in anticipation, unaware that backstage, history was about to quietly shift. Elvis stepped to the edge of the stage, boots clicking softly on polished wood. He paused, scanning the crowd while simultaneously glancing at the wings, his hand brushing against the microphone stand. A flash of recognition, a pause too long for casual observation. Crew members exchanged glances, sensing the moment's tension but not knowing its source. The spotlight flickered, the first notes of the opening chord hovered in the air, and Elvis inhaled slowly, grounding himself. And then, just before the music began, he froze, a brief stillness that made even the stage lights seem to pause. Elvis paused at the edge of the stage, taking a slow breath. Backstage, the usual pre-show commotion hummed around Lisa Marie Presley, but she wasn't part of the performance. Security guard Ray Dalton noticed her subtle entrance, a figure moving quietly through the side hallway, her eyes wide and alert. She wore a simple outfit, careful to avoid drawing attention, yet her presence carried a weight that made the air feel heavier. Ray had seen countless VIPs slip into arenas, some announced, some not. But there was something different tonight, an undercurrent of purpose in her steps, a tension that even seasoned staff could feel. She wasn't here to perform, to be seen, or to participate. She was here to witness, to observe, to feel the moment unfold in its rawest form. Why now? After years of private life and public scrutiny, what drove her to be here at this precise moment? And what did Elvis hope would happen by having her in the wings, unseen by the thousands awaiting a show? The muffled sounds of the arena filtered through the walls. Fans chanting, instruments being tested, the distant hum of the stage lights. Lisa Marie's gaze was fixed, her attention split between the crowd's excitement and the figure she knew more intimately than anyone else. Every heartbeat seemed amplified in the corridor, every soft click of a camera shutter echoing against her own racing pulse. She stepped closer to the wings, pausing behind the curtain. The shadows welcomed her, concealing her presence from the audience but making her entirely visible to the man who had unknowingly shaped her life. The weight of the unspoken history between them pressed on the moment, a bridge between past and present that no words could fully describe. What does it feel like to witness someone you care for on the stage, performing for thousands, when a single word or glance could change everything? How do you navigate the tension of seeing a private life reflected in a public spectacle? Lisa Marie adjusted slightly, holding her breath as the band's tuning crescendos signaled that the performance was moments away. Her eyes flitted toward her father's shadow, tracing the familiar outline she knew so well. Lisa Marie glanced at her father's shadow on stage, heart racing. The lights dimmed, the crowd erupted, and the first chord struck across Market Square Arena. Elvis stepped confidently into the spotlight, his rhinestone-studded white jumpsuit sparkling under the stage lights. Fans clapped, shouted, and waved scarves, feeding the energy that had carried him through countless performances. Yet, beneath the bravado and routine, something unusual flickered in his eyes. Every few lines, Elvis's gaze drifted toward the wings. A presence there, subtle yet commanding, tugged at his focus. It wasn't fatigue, it wasn't distraction. It was a memory in motion, a living embodiment of the past standing quietly just out of view. The band, seasoned and alert, noticed a microshift in timing, a hesitation in rhythm. The audience, still unaware, felt a subtle tension in the air, as if the music itself paused to acknowledge an unseen weight. What happens when the past intrudes on the present in the middle of a performance? How does a performer balance the roar of thousands with the gravity of personal truth? And when the line between public and private blurs, can the stage hold it all without collapsing? Elvis pressed onward, each note measured. Yet his hand brushed the microphone as though seeking anchor. The audience sensed a difference, murmuring as the chords extended just slightly longer than rehearsed. The music became secondary, a vessel for the emotion he couldn't contain. His voice trembled subtly, the inflection carrying decades of memory, longing, and unspoken words. Backstage, crew members stiffened, catching the tension but unsure of its origin. Cameras rolled, capturing the spectacle. Yet the most profound story unfolded beyond the lens. Every gesture, every glance toward the wings, conveyed a narrative invisible to most, yet impossible to ignore. How do thousands of people unknowingly witness an intimate exchange, a private confession threaded through a public performance? Then, mid-song, Elvis paused. A heartbeat stretched longer than expected. Fingers hovered over instruments. Backup singers exchanged uncertain looks. The arena's hum softened, the fans leaning forward, feeling the shift without knowing why. He lifted his hands slowly, a motion both commanding and fragile, signaling the music to hold. The lights seemed to lean in, the spotlight freezing on his figure. Silence began to creep through the crowd, mingling with the lingering chords, as though the entire arena collectively held its breath. He stopped mid-song, hand lifting, and the arena fell silent. Elvis leaned closer to the microphone, the arena holding its collective breath. Thousands of fans waited for the next lyric, the next cue, unaware that the show had just shifted into a realm far beyond music. His voice, usually commanding and confident, quivered slightly as he began to speak. Words never rehearsed, words that carried the weight of years, love, and secrecy. He revealed something deeply personal about Lisa Marie, a secret layered with history, trust, and the kind of understanding only a parent and child could share. The words echoed across the arena, bouncing off the high ceilings, penetrating the hearts of thousands, yet meant for only one pair of eyes in the wings. Cameras tried to capture it, but they couldn't record the trembling of the audience, the way the crowd collectively sensed the gravity of the moment. Backstage, crew members froze mid-motion. The band faltered, instruments suspended in air. The sound engineer hesitated over the mixer, fingers hovering above the sliders, unsure whether to amplify the melody or leave it suspended in the raw, unfiltered emotion. What risks do you take when exposing private truths on a public stage? How do you gauge the reaction of thousands to something meant for a single soul? Lisa Marie, standing partially hidden behind the wings, felt the words strike her like a sudden gust of wind. Her breath caught. Her hand flew to her mouth, covering it in disbelief. The past, present, and future collided in that single moment, a jolt of revelation that neither rehearsal nor expectation could have prepared her for. The music no longer mattered. The confession had rewritten the entire evening. Fans murmured, some cheering nervously, others uncertain how to respond. The usual applause was stifled by the weight of what had been said. The lights seemed brighter, the shadows sharper, as if the arena itself understood that a boundary had been crossed. What does it mean when a performer chooses vulnerability over routine? How do you honor honesty when it disrupts the rhythm of spectacle? Elvis's gaze softened, flickering toward Lisa Marie for the briefest instant. Her reaction, raw and immediate, reflected back all the unspoken words, regrets, and love. The connection was invisible to most, but it defined the night for both of them. The energy in the arena shifted subtly, a quiet ripple of awe threading through the audience, as the legend on stage revealed the human beneath the sequins. Lisa Marie gasped, covering her mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. The arena erupted in murmurs, a wave of uncertainty sweeping through 20,000 fans. Some cheered nervously, others held their breath, trying to reconcile the spectacle of the music with the intimate revelation unfolding before them. The band faltered for a beat, unsure whether to continue, while stagehands paused mid-motion, sensing the unusual tension threading through the air. The confession had turned a routine performance into a charged, unpredictable moment. Every chord, every note, carried more than melody. It carried consequence. Fans leaned forward instinctively, hearts racing as they tried to capture the moment with their eyes, their cameras, their memory. Yet, despite all the documentation, no one could fully grasp the private impact unfolding between father and daughter backstage. Questions echoed silently across the arena. How do you react when the line between public performance and private truth dissolves? How does an audience process emotion meant for someone else? The confession transformed the crowd into participants in a story far deeper than the music. A story stitched together by years of private life suddenly revealed in a public space. Backstage, crew members exchanged worried glances. Ray Dalton, stationed near the wings, noticed Lisa Marie's subtle recoil, the quick inhale that betrayed her attempt to remain composed. Every small movement became magnified in the heightened atmosphere, every reaction amplified by the collective suspense of the thousands watching. Elvis maintained his composure, continuing the song, yet every lyric now felt layered with personal meaning. Fans followed the familiar melody, sensing something was different, though unable to articulate exactly what. The music became a bridge, connecting the audience to a truth they would never fully see, but could feel, hanging in the tension-filled air. The audience's collective heartbeat seemed to sync with the rhythm of the confession, rising and falling with the subtle inflections in his voice. Each note reinforced the gravity, each pause became a punctuation of significance. How does the human heart respond when the performance is intertwined with raw, unshielded emotion? Can thousands simultaneously witness a private moment without intruding, and still feel its power? And then, in the wings, Lisa Marie took a small, trembling step backward, momentarily recoiling from the weight of exposure, the force of memory and surprise. She had come to witness, to observe, yet the confession had swept her into the center of the stage in spirit, even if physically hidden. Cameras caught Lisa Marie stepping back, trembling. The song continued, but every note carried the weight of the confession. Elvis sang with precision, yet each inflection seemed directed beyond the audience, toward the figure in the wings who had unknowingly become the axis of the evening. The melody stretched and shimmered, layered with emotion that only one person truly understood. Lisa Marie watched, caught between awe, shock, and a tangled web of family history. Her eyes followed him, noting the subtle shifts in posture, the slight tremor in his hands. She had thought she knew the stage, this father, and this song, but now every lyric resonated differently, each one a dialogue in a language only they shared. Backstage, security guard Ray Dalton kept a careful eye, noting her subtle reactions. The tightening of her fingers, the swallow of a breath, the flicker of unease that passed like a shadow across her face. How do you witness vulnerability in someone you love when the world is focused elsewhere? How can a private moment coexist with thousands of onlookers? Elvis's eyes flickered toward her repeatedly, searching, weighing, hoping. Every glance was a silent question, a plea for understanding, an unspoken apology. The audience, still unaware, felt tension and resonance but lacked context. The music became a canvas for emotions too intricate to explain. As the final verses approached, Lisa Marie's composure wavered. She leaned slightly away, the gesture nearly imperceptible, signaling that the intensity of the revelation teetered on the edge of overwhelm. The intimacy of the moment, the personal history, the sudden exposure was almost too much to bear in the spotlight. What is it like to hold your emotions in check when every eye around you watches, waiting for a reaction? How do you reconcile pride, shock, and love simultaneously when the world perceives only performance? In this rare collision of public spectacle and private truth, both parent and child became acutely aware of their shared history. Elvis held the microphone a fraction longer, letting the silence stretch between notes, a subtle acknowledgement of the gravity he felt. Every breath, every pause, carried a lifetime of memory, missteps, and love. And then, almost imperceptibly, she raised her hand, a small but clear gesture, signaling that he had gone too far. The music hung in suspended tension. The crowd sensed it in the micropauses, the subtle shift in his voice, the rare faltering of a performer usually so in control. She raised a hand, almost imperceptibly, signaling he had gone too far. Elvis took a measured step back from the microphone, allowing the notes to linger in the air. The audience remained captivated, unaware that the music had become secondary to the quiet exchange unfolding in the wings. The performance, already extraordinary, now carried an invisible layer of meaning. An intimate conversation played out in melody. Lisa Marie's eyes followed him carefully, her emotions a mixture of awe, relief, and lingering surprise. The years of distance, the misunderstandings, and the weight of family history converged in this moment. Every subtle glance, every pause, became a language they alone could interpret. Could thousands of fans ever understand the depth of what they were witnessing? And yet, they felt it anyway, a ripple through the crowd that defied explanation. Backstage, crew members whispered to each other, noting the tension that had softened into something tender. The band continued, cautious, adjusting to the delicate rhythm that Elvis now set, not just for the music, but for the truth unfolding before him. How often do performers navigate the fine line between public expectation and private reconciliation? Elvis's final notes held a resonance that seemed to reach beyond the stage, touching everyone present, yet reserved for only one pair of eyes. He nodded subtly toward Lisa Marie, an acknowledgement and a silent apology intertwined. The world watched the legend, but backstage a human story was being told. The audience cheered, sensing the power of the performance without realizing the source. Cameras captured smiles and applause, but the most significant reaction remained unseen. It was in a small movement, a flicker of understanding, and the silent dialogue between father and daughter. What does it mean to reconcile without words, to communicate in glances and gestures rather than declarations? As the final chords faded, Lisa Marie's composure finally shifted. A single tear slid down her cheek, catching the stage lights as she allowed herself a private moment of emotion amidst the spectacle. The impact of the confession, the courage to voice it, and the acknowledgement of her presence had transformed the night into something far larger than a performance. The music concluded. Elvis lowered his head slightly, a subtle smile touching his lips. He had navigated the moment, honored the truth, and shared something raw with a crowd that would never fully comprehend it. Lisa Marie's expression shifted, a single tear slipping down her cheek. In the days and weeks that followed, the story of Elvis's unplanned confession rippled far beyond the Houston Astrodome. Fans, journalists, and historians recounted the night with a mix of awe and disbelief. Bootleg audio captured fragments of Lisa Marie's stunned reaction. Interviews with crew members highlighted the extraordinary courage it took for Elvis to reveal such a personal truth amidst thousands of fans. The event became part of Presley lore not for scandal but for the rare vulnerability it displayed. Even backstage, the atmosphere lingered with a quiet significance. Ray Dalton, the security guard, recalled every subtle gesture, every glance, every shift in body language. The performance was extraordinary, yes, but the weight of what had been said and seen defined the moment more than the music itself. How can one balance public expectation with private honesty? What does it take to show your heart to thousands while keeping the essence of intimacy intact? Weeks later, the details were corroborated through fan diaries and backstage notes. One diary from row 15 described how Elvis's gaze lingered on the wings, catching the silent acknowledgement of Lisa Marie. The subtle nods, the pauses, the tremor in his voice, all invisible to the majority, became the stuff of legend. What power does a fleeting glance hold? Can a brief acknowledgement in a crowded arena resonate for decades? Artifacts from the night surfaced over time. Handwritten backstage notes, a bootleg tape capturing the confession, and the preserved memories of those present. Fans who discovered these items marveled at the depth of the performance and the private truth woven into it. A fan club still recounts the story annually, noting the courage required to share personal truth amidst spectacle. And yet, the most astonishing revelation came years later. A rare backstage recording surfaced, capturing the night from behind the curtains. In it, Elvis whispered a follow-up to his confession, a private reflection meant only for Lisa Marie. The sound, soft and intimate, preserved a human moment that transcended the stage and left fans and historians alike in awe. A rare backstage recording surfaced years later, revealing a whispered follow-up from Elvis. Elvis's confession wasn't merely a public revelation. It was a testament to courage, honesty, and the delicate balance between private truth and public performance. That night, the Astrodome became more than a stage. It became a space where vulnerability and love intertwined, where a father acknowledged the person his daughter had become, and where an audience unknowingly witnessed history in its most human form. The performance reminds us that even legends carry secrets, and that moments of courage often go unseen, yet resonate far beyond their immediate context. Vulnerability does not weaken. It transforms. It allows connection, understanding, and the quiet acknowledgement of what truly matters. What truths in your own life remain unspoken, waiting for the right moment? How might honesty, even in the most public or unexpected ways, reshape relationships and leave a lasting legacy? Elvis's final encore that night was more than music. It was a lesson in the power of transparency, the weight of recognition, and the enduring impact of telling someone the truth when it matters most.